Okay, welcome everyone to the shir. Thank you so much for showing up. And we'll start immediately. We want to first thank the people that support the shir. Rabbi Gatziani, Rabbi Meir Goldenberg, who sets it up on the internet, Shkoyach Gadol, and Rabbi Shimel and family who arrange it. And tonight we're sponsoring it in honor Leilu Nishmas Mordechai David ben Avraham Chaim Olav Shalom Feldman for his Yortzeit on Hey Nisan, which is tonight, and it's in honor of his son La'irich Yamim V'Shadim Tevis Reb Yosef Yitzchak Feldman, a very dear member of our community, and from the Hatzalah members. Shkoyach. Give me that. Okay, tell her that's going on. Okay, so the last time we spoke about the Tzemach Tzedek. And what did we say? We spoke about Tzemach Tzedek before he became Rebbe, when the Mittler Rebbe was still, actually in the Alter Rebbe's days. Last time we got through the Tzemach Tzedek in the Alter Rebbe's days. That the Alter Rebbe asked his Rebbe Chaim Mushka once to show him some of his Ksovim, the Tzemach Tzedek's Ksovim. He was very, very young then, just was married a short while. And she brought him a package full of Ksovim, of manuscripts, which was part of the Sheish Mitzvah Tefillah, one of the deep memorim that the Tzemach Tzedek writes. And the Alter Rebbe made a Shechianu. This is all from last week. And Chassidim found out about it, and Tzemach Tzedek got upset with the Rebbe Chaim Mushka. And then because of that, the Alter Rebbe gave him a special time every week, a few times a week, to learn with him Nigla and Chassidus and Kabbalah. I think I don't remember Nigla and Chassidus for sure. In order for him to forgive and to forget that she took it without permission because he was upset. So that was last time. Now we're going over to the time when Tzemach Tzedek became officially the Rebbe of Lubavitch. He was the third Rebbe of Lubavitch. Now, the Frierdiker Rebbe describes a very interesting thing in the Sichos. He says, from the year Tovkuf Pei Gimel, this is 10 years after the Alter Rebbe was Nistalik, Tovkuf Pei Gimel, this is in Lubavitch, there were two kings, Bekeser Echad, two kings with one crown. Normally it's not a thing that's possible, but over here the Mittler Rebbe was the Rebbe, and Tzemach Tzedek, in a way, was on that level too. However, it says the Frierdiker Rebbe, because Tzemach Tzedek was a very, very wise person, Chacham Godel, nobody realized what's going on. Nobody realized what's going on. And he says a story, the Frierdiker Rebbe. In the year Tovkuf Pei Hey, 4 years before the Mittler Rebbe was Nistalik. Yeah? The Mittler Rebbe is the Rebbe. A certain chassid of the Alter Rebbe, it's 101 years ago, yes. A certain chassid, 200. Tovkuf Pei Hey. A certain chassid of the Alter Rebbe traveled to the Alter Rebbe's Tzion, to the oil in Hadich. And he was mishtateach, he went to daven to ask for a request by the Alter Rebbe in Hadich. When that chassid came afterwards to Lubavitch, so both the Tzemach Tzedek, this is what the Frierdiker Rebbe writes, the Tzemach Tzedek and the Mittler Rebbe, I should say the Mittler Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek, had a chizoyon lailo, which means a vision at night that the Alter Rebbe came to them, side the Mittler Rebbe and side Tzemach Tzedek, who's the Mittler Rebbe's son-in-law. And the Mittler Rebbe did not tell, let's say, he did not share with the Tzemach Tzedek that his father came to him in a vision. And that Tzemach Tzedek didn't share with the Mittler Rebbe that his grandfather came to him in a vision, that the Alter Rebbe came in a vision. What happened next, says the Frierdiker Rebbe? That chassid went in for Yechidus to the Mittler Rebbe. When he came into Yechidus, the Mittler Rebbe says to him, my father, my tata, the Alter Rebbe was by me, and he told me that you were maftzir more than you're supposed to. You begged for something too strong when you were on the Tzion. And Vishal Oisei Madua, I don't know who is asking who. The Alter Rebbe is saying to the Mittler Rebbe, or the Mittler Rebbe to the Chassid, why? Why did you ask so strongly for something? That's the story that he's telling over from the Yechidus. After that, the same Chassid went into the Tzemach Tzedek, and Tzemach Tzedek started talking to him about the same inyan. So the Chassid understood that this is not a Dover Poshut Klal Uklal. What's not a Dover Poshut is also one of the things that I don't 100% know. Not a Dover Poshut that he is his Shaykhis and Alter Rebbe with the oil, or not a Dover Poshut that both these people know about it and got a chezoin, which means the Mittler Rebbe who's Rebbe, and it's Tzemach Tzedek who's his son-in-law, both had this chezoin from the Alter Rebbe. I don't know what exactly the Frierdiker Rebbe means by that, but I'm sure everybody can figure it out themselves. Okay, so that's a story that the Frierdiker Rebbe says how great the Tzemach Tzedek was, even b'chayev of the Mittler Rebbe. The Tzemach Tzedek was 38, 2 months and 11 days old when the stalkus of the Mittler Rebbe happened in Tovkuf Peiches Tes Kislev. How it comes out to 11 days, I couldn't figure out. The Tzemach Tzedek was born on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Right? So then he comes Tishrei and Cheshvan is 2 months. Take that day is another day. And Tes Kislev is when the Mittler Rebbe was installed. So 10 days. Where's the 11 days? I don't know. I'm curious.
One of the months was a Monday,
And then don't say 2. Then why is it 2 months? And you say all the dates. 71 days. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Might be right. I'm just asking a question. Can you give me a cup? Some water, please. Thank you so much. Anyway, what did you say?
The same thing.
Yeah, I also thought so. But why is he saying 2 months?
Right.
Okay, weiter gefahren. So the Tzemach Tzedek was 38 years old in a few months. B'shas the Mittler Rebbe was in Stalik. The Chosid, the Radatz, Reb David Tzvi Chaim, or as they called him, Reb Hirschel Chernigover. He said over this story. He lived a little later on. Mistama b'chayiv of the Tzemach Tzedek, or at least b'chayiv of the Rebbe Maharash. This Reb David Tzvi Chaim, who was a major goyin and a rov, and he said over what he heard from his father, who was a Peretz Chaim from Chernigov. So his father was also from Chernigov. Reb David Tzvi, the Rebbe has a whole sikha that they called him Hirschel Chernigover. And how could that be? He was such a goyin and a rov in Chernigov, but because the Rebbe said, because the explanation was that since Chassidim all knew that there's only one Rebbe, and to the Rebbe is who you show the respect. So everybody else, no matter how great he is called by a nickname. In other words, there's no special kavod. He's a great chassid, but they called him Hirschel Chernigover. He said over this story that he heard from his father, Reb Peretz. This is the story. He says when the Mittler Rebbe was Nistalik, he passed away, there was a meeting, a asifo, a very big meeting of all the Ziknei HaChasidim, the older Chassidim of the Mittler Rebbe. Now we once spoke, I believe, the famous story with Rebbe, was it Isaac Hamler, who said, Isaac Hamler I think, who said to the Kaliner Rebbe, to Pan, was it Isaac I think, no? Who was it? Binyamin Kletzky, I'm sorry. Binyamin Kletzky. I'll call upon him, the whole idea of his kashrus was just it's the third Rebbe of Lubavitch, and we're going to see now about the whole idea of his kashrus. So think to yourself, there were Chassidim there. Later the Frierdiker Rebbe is going to explain it in more detail, but I don't think we'll be able to do it tonight. There were Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe, there were Chassidim of the Mittler Rebbe, and amongst the Mittler Rebbe himself, there were older Chassidim and younger Chassidim and middle Chassidim. And now the older Chassidim of the Mittler Rebbe have an asifa, they have a meeting, and they decided we're placing the crown of the Nesius on the head of the Tzemach Tzedek, the son-in-law of the Mittler Rebbe. Who was by this asifa? Big Chassidim, Yedui Shem, people who were very, very famous. Who are they, these Chassidim? So amongst them was Abhil of Parich, the Chassid and Goyin Reb Yitzchak Isaac of Vitebsk. There's 2 Reb Isaacs. The Chassid Reb Yitzchak Moshe of Yassi, and the Chassid Reb Peretz Chaim from Chernigov, who was telling the story to his son Reb Hirschel Chernigover the Radatz. They were by this meeting. Now, when did the Mittler Rebbe pass away? He passed away Tes Kislev. This meeting took place sometime after Kislev. Let's see what happens next. This mishlachas, this delegation of the Chassidim, came in front of the Tzemach Tzedek, and they gave him over their decision. And this decision was already publicized before they came to the Tzemach Tzedek in all the Lubavitcher communities, that they decided that the Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, is the Rebbe. It was publicized that the Nesius is now the Tzemach Tzedek. Kveit Kedushas Adonenu Moreinu Rabbeinu, the Rebbe and the Nossi of all Hasidei Chabad. This was the message. L'mazel tov v'arichas yomim v'shonim beruchnis u'begashmis. They told this over to the Tzemach Tzedek that it was already publicized. And Tzemach Tzedek said, he doesn't want to accept the Nesius. What should they do? And so it went from Kislev, Teves, Shvat, Adar, Nisan, Pesach went by, and there was still no clear thing. Later we're going to find out that Tzemach Tzedek said some very interesting things. One of the things he says, I'm ready to get a schirus, a salary of a malamed tinekes, of a teacher. And the Chassidim, there were Chassidim that right away became a kusha to the Tzemach Tzedek before he even accepted it after the Tes Kislev. And about 100 of them sat in Lubavitch and learned day and night Chassidus, and the Tzemach Tzedek would teach them. He said he wants to be a Malamed Tanekah, so he would teach them, but he didn't want to accept the official Nesius. So it went by after Pesach, and there still was no clear set thing. And all the Anash, all the Chassidim of Lubavitch, there were thousands, tens of thousands already in the Tzemach Tzedek's days. They got this they became all excited and awoken that for Shavuos, all the Chassidim, the older Chassidim, the famous ones are going to come to Lubavitch for Shavuos. Because the Tzemach Tzedek still didn't accept the Nesius. The Chossi, the Goin, this is the Frierdiker Rebbe is telling the whole story. And later we're going to see more details. But this is an interesting story what happened then. Mamish, a heavenly, Himmeldike story. He says the Goin, the Chossid and Goin, Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac of Homil, he was a very, very famous Chossid, said over, this is a story within the story, that when Rabbi Isaac Homler, we remember last time we spoke about how he was by the Asifa, by the big debate, by the Vikuach, I believe it was in Minsk, if I'm not mistaken. No, not Minsk, it was in either Shklov or Shvincian, I don't know. Could be it was in Minsk. So he was there with his Rosh Yeshiva, Reb Zemele, and Reb Zemele was very upset that the Misnagdish Rabbonim didn't behave correctly with the Alter Rebbe. They didn't answer him his shilas. And this Reb Isaac decided right then and there he's becoming a chassid of the Alter Rebbe, right? And Reb Zemele finally gave him his blessing. So this Reb Isaac says that when he became, in the beginning, when he came to Lozne, to the Alter Rebbe, this is what he remembers, that the Alter Rebbe's grandson, his Einikl, the Tzemach Tzedek, was a small boy of around 3 or 4 years old, and he used to always be in the room of the Alter Rebbe. That's the Yechidus room, that's the Alter Rebbe's private room. Amongst the Chassidim, it was known that B'shaz the Alter Rebbe davens in his room, his little grandson, the little boy, the Tzemach Tzedek, takes 2 potatoes, cuts them in the shape of tefillin in boxes, and then he takes strings as ritzuas of the tefillin, strings like little ropes, and he ties the strings on his arm and on his head, and he shakes, and he sings nigunim just like somebody who davens. And when Alter Rebbe finishes his davening and takes his tefillin off, the child, the Einikl, also takes off his tefillin with the potatoes. And he starts running around the room to play like a kid, and he runs with these strings, all over the place, like a kid does. The door of the Alter Rebbe's room had cracks and holes. Why? Chassidim made it. When the Alter Rebbe wasn't in his room, I guess, this is my own thing, they must have made holes, they drilled holes and cracks, so they can look in at the Rebbe to see when he's davening.
Started back then.
And even though, again, it doesn't say here, but I guess it's because of that. I guess it's because of that. He says inside the door, inside the room, was a very wide curtain hanging there. I guess maybe because of that. Doesn't say. But Reb Zalman, the Mishoris of the Alter Rebbe, would forget sometimes to stretch the curtain, and therefore the Chassidim would watch sometimes. And one time they saw how the Alter Rebbe is davening, and the child is running around all over with his tefillin, and the Alter Rebbe takes off his Rashi tefillin, and after the tefillin of Shemush Rabbe, he put on Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin. And when he took off the Rashi tefillin, or whatever it was, the Shemush Rabbe, the Einikl, the Tzemach Tzedek, also took off his tefillin with the potatoes, and he started running around all over the room. And the Chassidim were watching all this. And while he's running, one of the strings got caught on the leg of the table. the Alter Rebbe, in his tefillin, bent down and untangled the chutim, the strings, where they were tangled in the leg of the table, and the child, the anicle, grabbed the string and kept on running all over like before. The Chassidim were spoiled.
What was the strings made for? Who took out the strings?
He took it to some strings, strick. From the hardware side, I don't know. Whatever, no, he says he made it himself. He was a very smart kid.
Potatoes.
Potatoes,
Yeah, it was.
I don't know. The Chassidim were very nispol. They were shocked, like at the kiruv and the love that Alter Rebbe showed to his anicle. One time, says the Goin, Reb Yitzchak Isaac of Hummel, he said this story over. We'll find out later when he said it and why he said it. One time, he says, the Alter Rebbe said a maimer. The maimer starts with the words, Al shleisha dvarim ha'olam ha'imid. We, the Jungelite, says the Isaac Hummel, he was still a very young person, and also the older Chassidim, did not pick up the maimer the way you're supposed to. In other words, we didn't understand the maimer 100%. We did hishtadlus. We started putting in effort to get the Alter Rebbe to repeat the maimer for us. And who did the hishtadlus? The Mittler Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe's son. This is the Alter Rebbe, still Rebbe then. And we were poil. We had an effect that the Alter Rebbe promised to chazer over the maimer a second time on Tuesday after davening, but on condition there shouldn't be more than 30 Chassidim there, Tni Minyonim Chassidim in the room. And in the great kindness and the great favor that the Mittler Rebbe did for me, said Rabbi Isaac Hamler, I was zeiche also to be amongst those who are going into the room to hear the Chazorah and the Maimer by the Alter Rebbe. We came into the room of the Minyan HaKotten, which is called Gan Eden HaTachten, not Mamish and Alter Rebbe's room, but the room next to it. And we were waiting for the Alter Rebbe to finish his davening and open his door. The Chassidim that were looking through the cracks saw how the child, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, is still dressed with the potatoes on his hand and on his head. And he's running around the room. So they knew the Alter Rebbe, and he's shaking. So they knew the Alter Rebbe is still davening. When they saw the kid remove the potatoes, and he's running around already in the room, they knew the Alter Rebbe finished his davening. When the Alter Rebbe opened up his door, how long he came down? 2 minutes? 3 minutes? When the Alter Rebbe opened up his door to come out and say the Maimer of Chassidus, so I guess the Alter Rebbe was davening in the Gan Eden HaTachten, because that's what it seems like. So his sons, the Alter Rebbe's sons, went straight into the room. That means the Mittler Rebbe, Avram, whatever. And after that, the older Chassidim. I, says Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac of Hummel, stood there outside the door. I was afraid to go in. It's the shocking. He got scared. But suddenly, the Alter Rebbe says, who was left outside? And somebody answered the Alter Rebbe, one young man. So the Alter Rebbe said, Yukonis, Zoller reingehen, let him come in. Because from a young man will become an alter man. From a young man will become an older Yid. I became confused totally, says Rabbi Isaac Hamler. In the first few moments, I didn't see and didn't hear anything. Only the holy words of the Alter Rebbe were shining in front of my eyes and filled my mind and my heart. A few moments it took me till I came back to myself, to my consciousness, sort of. I went in and I stood in the last line of the Chassidim, 30 Chassidim, to hear the Maimer. And suddenly I feel how the child, who is the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, is pushing his way through us, to the adults, and the Alter Rebbe already started saying the Maimer al shleisha dvarim ha'olam ha'imid. So I thought to myself, surely his strings got caught somewhere, and maybe they got caught under my leg, thought of Isaac Humler. And I was afraid that I'm trying to listen to the Alter Rebbe, and if the kid's going to make some noise, and he's going to want me to untangle it, or whatever it is, I might miss out something from the Maimer. He's going to confuse me. So I wanted to say something to the child to not confuse me. Mitamol, before I even had a chance to utter a word, I was shocked hearing the Alter Rebbe in the middle of his Maimer saying these words in Yiddish. Lozem, hanachloi. Leave him alone, twice. Vil hern, he wants to hear. Hert, he is listening. The Alter Rebbe is saying these words. Und du wirst noch sehen, als hert. and you will see one day, you'll realize one day that he's listening. This is all in the middle of the Maimer. Nobody in the place knows what the Alter Rebbe is talking about, except for Rabbi Isaac Homler, who only thought of saying something to the Nechet, to the Einikel. And the Alter Rebbe said those words. The words of the Alter Rebbe became public. People started talking about it. The Alter Rebbe said these words in the middle of the Maimer. And it was a pelle. Nobody understood what's going on. It was like an amazing mystery. Nobody knew the solution of these words. And slowly, I didn't tell anybody. The Rabbi Isaac didn't tell anybody. And slowly the whole thing was forgotten, he says. I think we'll have to stop here. Should I? I can go on. I don't know. Huh?
The ending of the story is going to have to pay something.
So, 2 weeks before Shavuos, says Reb Peretz Chaim in the story, I came to Lubavitch. Remember, this is the year Tovkuf Peches. The Tzemach Tzedek does not want to accept the Nesias. 2 weeks before Shavuos, I came to Lubavitch, says Reb Peretz Chaim, and I found many, many guests. And a few days later, after me, came Rabbi Isaac Homler, Rabbi Hillel Paritcher, Rabbi Isaac Avitebsk, another Rabbi Isaac. They made asifas, they made meetings, they sent delegations to the Tzemach Tzedek, and he continues to refuse to become the Rebbe. He says the Rebbe should be Reb Chaim Avrom, the middle son of the Alter Rebbe, Reb Menachem Nochem, the son of the Mittler Rebbe, Reb Aaron of Kremenchuk, who's the son-in-law of the Mittler Rebbe. And the Adas HaChasidim, all the Chassidim, were in great pain. They wanted the Tzemach Tzedek to accept it. It was the third day, or a Tuesday in other words, it was the first day of the Shloshis Yimei Agbola. Suddenly, says Reb Peretz Chaim to his son, Reb Datz, suddenly, a Ruach Elikim tzolcho alai, a spirit of the Eibush came upon me. Standing there together with Reb Hillel Paritcher, Reb Isaac Vitebsker, who are begging the Tzemach Tzedek in the name of thousands of Chassidim to accept the Nesias as the Chassidim want, I suddenly said to the Tzemach Tzedek, I have a Raya Mefureshes, clear proof from the Gemara, from Divrei Chazal, that you, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, only you can become the Nasi. It's only for you. Tzemach Tzedek suddenly answered me and said, you're not allowed to be mezalzel in a Maimer Chazal. A Maimer Chazal is serious. I can't play games with that. Tell me what you want to say, and we'll listen. So I told him, it's a Gemara based on a Pasuk. The Pasuk is going to be in a few weeks. Isha Kisazriya, V'yolda Zochor, V'amr Chazal, our sages tell us in the Gemara, that the Nekeva, a girl is born connected more to the father, and a boy is born connected more to the mother. And therefore, says the Reb Peretz Chaim to the Tzemach Tzedek in his face, your mother, the Rebbe Tzedek, is more connected to the grandfather, to her father, the Alter Rebbe, and you're connected more to your mother, who's the Rebbe Tzedek. So it's a direct connection from the Alter Rebbe. Therefore, you're the only one who can be Nasi. In the Hayoim Yoim, page Nun Zayin, it says that in one of the visions that Tzemach Tzedek saw the Alter Rebbe, within the Shloishim of his Istalkus, the Alter Rebbe said to the Tzemach Tzedek, we didn't know about it at that time, before the Tzemach Tzedek became him. The Alter Rebbe said to the Tzemach Tzedek, Amayim al Shloish Advarim Oilam Eimit, and afterwards the Alter Rebbe said the same words from the Gemara, Ish Mazriya Tchilo Yeledes Lekeva, which means the girl is more connected to the father, and the Alter Rebbe said to him, that's your mother, clear. And Isha Mazriya Tchilo, the connection to the mother is a boy, and that's you, the Alter Rebbe told him. Tzemach Tzedek didn't tell it to anybody. And the parents had like a Ruach HaKodesh. He said to the Alter Rebbe, you have to become, to the Tzemach Tzedek, you have to become Rebbe. You're mechuyev, he told him. Tzemach Tzedek, for a while, was misboinen, and then he said, okay, maskim, but tonight they shouldn't bother me with asking questions and gashmizdike things. Rabbi Hillel Paritcher right away called out to the Tzemach Tzedek and said, Chassidim want to hear a Maimer Chassidus. And immediately the rumors went around all over Lubavitch that the Tzemach Tzedek has become Rebbe officially, and the Simcha was quite wild amongst the Chassidim in the Chotzer and all over Lubavitch. In the meantime, they found out in a few moments that Tzemach Tzedek will come to say Maimer Chassidus in the shul, and we all ran to shul, all the Chassidim, to get a place next to the bima. The Tzemach Tzedek came dressed in white, the white clothes that he got as a Yerusha from the Alter Rebbe, sat down on the bima and started saying a Maimer. When he started the Maimer, Rabbi Tzemach Isaac, who was standing there, reminded himself how he heard this Maimer, the same Maimer from the Alter Rebbe, some 30 years before. And suddenly he remembered that scene when the little child that Tzemach Tzedek was trying to push through, and Alter Rebbe said, Lozem, vil hert, and there was noch zenas, you'll find out that he's listening. Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac remembered that machzeh, that scenery, and the nevuah, mamish, the prophecy of the Alter Rebbe, and he started thinking, take a look, this is the child, he is the Rebbe now. A Nosif and tens of thousands of Yidden. So in his mind, Rabbi Isaac Hamler, in his mind, he didn't say anything. He's thinking to himself, this is a godly strength that the Tzemach Tzedek has. And he's showing us now the hidden strengths that he has, that the Eibishter gave him. As he's thinking, Tzemach Tzedek stops saying the Maimah and turns to Rabbi Isaac. And he says in a begging voice, you are suspecting me of something that I don't have. But what should I do that my Zayde, the Alter Rebbe, is telling me right now to say the Maimah? You hear? Tachshaduni. And he finished the Maimah. After Tzemach Tzedek finished the Maimah, everybody started singing. And the Rebbe went home. The whole Lubavitch was standing and dancing. And Rabbi Isaac came back to his Achsanya. He suddenly got very high fever, called Kadochas. He got very high fever. He couldn't move any limbs of his body. This is the story happened Tuesday. This happened the whole Wednesday. He was sick, and in the evening a little better. And he wrote a ksav yad, a pidyon nefesh to the Tzemach Tzedek. And by night he became a little better, but he was still very weak. The next day, erev Shavuos, Tzemach Tzedek came back from the mikveh. He went by the Achsanya with Isaac Homler. He went in to visit him, and the Tzemach Tzedek told him these words. It's a amazing thing. He says there's a story in the Gemara in Masechta Brachos. We just learned it, where the one Tana, Rabbi Yechon, I think, said to the other one, or Amoyer, Havli Yodcho, give me your hand. He was sick. Yohiv le Yodei ve'ukme, gave him his hand, and he stood him up and he became well. Says that Tzemach Tzedek to Rabbi Isaac Homler that in these words in the Gemara are hidden secret names of the Eibush, the holy names that are Memuna, that are in charge of refuahs. And he explained to him the Yonim. He explained to Rabbi Isaac Homler. When he finished explaining, he asked Rabbi Isaac Homler, give me your hand. And Rabbi Isaac sat up, and the entire sickness and fever was gone instantly. That's when I saw, literally, clearly, said Rabbi Isaac Homler, that he is Mimale Mokem Avoiso Rabbeinu Hagdoshim. He's just like that, the Mufsi. When the Mufsi, you see right away the power. And I became a Mekusha Pnimi to the Tzemach Tzedek.
Why wasn't the other stuff not enough? All the other stuff before that.
L'chaim. There's a lot more that the Frierdiker Rebbe says later on. And the Mashiach now.